Trump was caught again.
Hey, Mr. Trump, drop your pants.
No, not for that. Everybody knows he's a creepy, borderline pedo rapist.
I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
I'm referring to the one thing Trump loves to brag about, the one thing he claims to know, and his biggest lie, business.
And nobody even understands it but me.
After 6 bankruptcies, and his ever-present grifts like Trump watches, Trump Bitcoin, Trump steaks, Trump University, Trump hats, Trump shirts, Trump Bibles, you don't have to be Stephen Hawking to figure this out. When Trump opens his mouth, it's a good bet that whatever comes out smells like Steve Bannon's hamper.
That's disgusting.
Late last night, Commander Mantitties was at it again, tweeting more lies that you don't need to be a scholar to check out, especially when the economic numbers are from the government and reported by Bloomberg News and CNBC. Trump tweeted this.
Because of tariffs, our economy is booming. With the help of patriots like you, we're going to produce our own metal, unleash our own energy, secure our own future, build our own country, control our destiny, and we are once again going to put Pennsylvania steel into the backbone of America like never before.
Now, every word of that's untrue. The economy isn't booming, and if it were, it wouldn't be because of tariffs. And speaking of steel, Trump's properties were built exclusively with Japanese and Chinese steel. But that surprises no one. I mean, the irony is everywhere. His Make America Great Again hats were made in China, for God's sakes.
We've been talking about inflation for a long time, just how high prices have gone. When you put a tariff on a product, it is not that the other country gets taxed per se. It's that the cost gets pushed on to the consumer here in the United States. That's how it works. That is the economics of it. When people ask, what's the math? They say, oh, we're getting taxed. How are we getting taxed? I don't understand. It means that you're going to walk into Walmart, you're going to look at the product, and the price tag for the product that you want is going to cost more, not less. That's it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And how former President Trump can speak the way he does about what he thinks the tariff is going to do, the idea that it's going to tax the Chinese or it's going to tax, it's just not the reality of the situation.
But here's the really bad news, Donnie. Your tariffs are taxes on the average American, and the economic numbers can't hide the truth. You are a colossal cockwaffle. According to the numbers just released, due to rising trade costs imposed by your trade war and rising uncertainty among producers and consumers, economic growth is expected to fall from 3.3% in 2024 to 2.9% this year. That's a 10% drop. Imagine if you made $100,000 a year and I said, now you're making 90. And the U.S. will fare even worse, going from 2.8% last year to 1.6% this year. That's like going from $100,000 a year to 60.
Where one day the tariffs are going to go up, and then there's going to be a delay in the tariffs, and then there's going to be a tariff on another country, and it's been up and down and up and down. And by the way, the stock market went up and down and up and down with these things. I think that the president's emphasis on tariffs right now is misguided. I think we have a very wobbly economy. We saw a not very good jobs report on Friday. The consumer confidence numbers are sinking, and other indicators are not positive. The economy needs a pick-me-up, and tariffs are not a pick-me-up.
But here's the thing about Trump's lies. He knows that a lie takes just a second to utter, and idiots won't check the facts, especially when Fat Donnie plays to their racist, homophobic, and misogynistic belief systems. But the truth requires a set of skills to organize and put into perspective. Take immigration. Trump doesn't bring up immigration without saying MS-13. Although MS-13 makes up less than 1% of all the gangs in our country, and immigrants not only commit fewer crimes per capita than native-born Americans, but they're an extremely integral part of our nation's agriculture and manufacturing success. But today, Trump is lying about tariffs and the economy. He wants Americans to believe that the failures are Biden's and the tariffs will cure whatever economic woes we have. But it's exactly the opposite of that. So let's do the math. What is a tariff?
Tariffs are like whiskey. A little whiskey under the right circumstances can be refreshing. Too much whiskey under the wrong circumstances, and you end up drunk as a goat.
Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. I can see a MAGA knucklehead drinking whiskey with his goat saying, oh, I get it now.
Who pays the tariffs?
The Chinese government pays the tariff.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I want to I'm an importer and exporter for 20 years.
Okay.
When a product comes into the U.S., there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow U.S. law and pay the tariff. I'm an American citizen, an American taxpayer. I pay that tariff to the U.S. government, And that increase in the cost of the product, I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
And what about
there is no
our tariffs are higher when they go overseas as opposed to theirs coming here?
So tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. So, for example, you might say, you want to sell us your beans, right?
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn. But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer.
Don't you think at the end of the day there may be more competition within the market of the U.S. government?
You're confusing the question. This is not a question of competition. The point we're discussing is who bears the cost of the tariff.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you if it's good policy for the U.S. government to tax beans and for the Chinese government to tariff corn. But what I can absolutely assure you is that a product that comes into the U.S. is paid for by a U.S. company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us.
And it's obvious that Trump either doesn't understand what a tariff is or is using them to pull off yet another grift, or maybe both.
One of the attractions that people don't seem to really understand why Trump loves tariffs so much is that historically, tariffs are the biggest driver of political corruption because every single interest goes hat in hand and either asks for an exemption to tariffs or asks that their competition get tariffed. It is a way to beseech those in power for special pleading, and that, I think, is the economic philosophy of this administration.
Add that to the notion that Trump uses tariffs to manipulate the markets so he and his friends can join in the pump and dump grift.
And what I want to know, what we want to know, is what did Marjorie Taylor Greene know before that announcement happened? And what stocks did she and her family trade leading up to that announcement?
So let's summarize. Trump has literally threatened the entire world with tariffs, with one exception, Russia, of course. And while these countries will be hurt by higher prices for American goods, Americans will feel the same pain as they reciprocate. And no one is backing down. The American economy will not be able to sell goods to the world, and that means American companies will have to lay off American workers, leading to a recession and inflation. That's called stagflation, and the last time we saw that was the late 70s, where interest rates on homes were over 15%. Imagine what that would do to our economy. Add that to Trump's deportation policies, and you'll have to pay more for workers, if you can find them, and more inflation. It's really simple. A tariff is paid for by U.S. consumers, the very people Trump claims to be helping. But you know it's a lie. Trump is a sociopath, and the Republican Party is cashing in on his lies and market manipulations. But the Republican base is showing signs of growing a brain.
How about among Republicans, the Republican base? This was a shocker to me. 64% of Republicans believe that tariffs will in fact cause prices to go up.
The question that needs to be addressed here is how bad does it have to get before we see Trump's attack on America will have devastating results, like Doge's assault on U.S. aid put farmers who sold crops overseas into bankruptcy. Economists predicted this, farmers warned us about it, and now we're all paying for it in spades. Tariffs aren't the answer, unless, of course, the question is, what's the best way to screw the American worker?
Suck that one, you cheap dime store hood.
Goddamn right. What you're about to hear could be disturbing.
You're a nasty person.
We're a nation that speaks English.
Look, if something like this, that thing start goggling.
Tariff.
You're an idiot. Drop your pants.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donna.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.